ICS3U, this lesson on random numbers. Hopefully you've got this open in front of you. I'm using LibreOffice apparently this time, but it doesn't matter what program you open your file in. You went to our Edmodo group and randomnumbers.rtf. There it is. It should look like that. Dandy. And I don't think we're actually going to add anything to this note at all. I'm just going to go through it quite quickly, I hope. You sat through that big long warm-up taking up, so let's try and get through this quickly. Often programmers use random numbers when writing code, particularly for games. This idea of random behavior in a computer is important, otherwise it's not very fun to use for games. There are many ways to accomplish this in Java. We'll mention two. So the first one is the math.random command. So when you want a random number, you can just use this code math.random. And it says the math.random command produces a double real number between 0.0 and 0.9999. So what I'm going to do, though, instead of adding to this note, I'm going to see how this looks in Ready. So fire up Ready, and you can play along. New HSA, and I'm going to call this random number exercises. You can actually be adding to this exercises. You can be adding to this later. And I'm just going to have a number, double number declaration, and then produce it using math.random. And you've probably noticed this when Ready recognizes something like a keyword, it turns bold black, but if it recognizes something else like this library, it goes thin black. The blue are variables, right? So now we want to just print this out. And it's going to be unformatted, and we don't like unformatted output, but this is just to show what this looks like. Right? Different numbers each time and lots of digits, and it's a mess. We often don't like having random numbers between 0 and 1. That doesn't make any sense. So we need to use this some math to clean it up. So there's a command that will actually produce a random number between 1 and 10. The int part rounds the number off, and it actually doesn't round it off. What it does is it chops it off. So this would actually be the number 0. But if it had, where'd my program go? There it is. Okay, and I'm going to run it again. So this one would actually cut this off to 0, but since I multiplied by 10, it would move the digit there, right there, and then cut that off. The integer cuts off all the decimal places. So this would actually produce the number 4. And then the +1 shifts it up so that this would actually be the number 5. Okay, so the three things together should produce a random number between 1 and 10. So I'm going to copy that, jam that into my program. Instead of this I'm going to try that and see how that looks, and hopefully we'll have a 6.0. Stop, run again, 10.0. Notice not 9, but 10. And I could run this as many as 1, not 0. I could run this as many times as I want. I'd never get a 0 because of that +1 that shifts it up from 1 to 10. You might be wondering why there's a decimal place. Well, the decimal place is because number is a double. It's actually a decimal place there. So if I were to make number an integer here, then it would output as an integer. Okay? The calculation still, this part is still in double, but then the int makes it cut off, and then now if the output changes just a little bit, but we'll talk more about formatting output later. Dandy. Okay, so now we can produce random numbers between 1 and 10. Or between anything, right, if we just follow along the same sort of thing. There is another way, though. The java.util.random library. We use Java random integer generator by importing that library, by including this statement at the beginning of our program. Notice that we're actually have done this a few times already without even knowing it. We could import the java.util.random library along with these other libraries that we're importing because it's stuff that we're going to use at the beginning of our program. Then we must create a generator. So this technique uses a random number generator. So that command, I'm going to copy that command. Now that we've imported this random business, we can go to our program, and in the variables we're going to create a generator. So it knows that random is from here, and generator is actually the name of our variable. We could have called it G or GEN or whatever we wanted to, but then we can use the generator to get the next integer. And instead of using this command, I'm actually going to just change the code I had. So instead of this code, I'm going to comment that out, leave that for later. Number equals generator dot next int, and then notice it'll produce, this produces a number between 0 and 9 and shifts it up 1, just like we did in the last one. So in our code, this would look like next int 10 and then plus 1, and then I'm going to print that out. Actually, I'd get an error message because nubmer isn't declared, but number is. So dandy there. There, 2. We kind of expected that would be the same. Fine. Note, if we wanted a double, it would give me a random real number. And again, with 0 to 1 less than whatever I put in here. So if I wanted a number between 1 and 100, let's say I wanted a real number between 1 and 100, I go next double between 1 and 100, and then this is going to actually produce a random number with all the digits and stuff like that between 1 and 100. Notice that since this is double, I would have to make number a double, and then I'm going to have all my decimal places, so I have to be careful about that. Oh, what's the error? Next, no applicable overload was found. Okay, what is it saying? Error message. Oh, it doesn't like me having a number in there. So now what's going to happen is this is just going to have a random number between 0 and 1. If I wanted in 100, I'd have to multiply by 100. There, Mr. Restall has learned something today too. So I can't put the 100 in here, I have to put the 100 out there. And then if I wanted to get an integer, I would just go next int, and then I could put 100 in there. Okay, fun. Now, here's some exercises. So what you're going to do is, in here, a random number between 1 and 100. We were just working on that. You can fix that up. So here we would say this is exercise A, and then when you do exercise B, if you don't want to go through all of the exercises, have them print out at once, you could comment them out. Exercise B, and so on. Okay, a few exercises there. Shouldn't be too long. Help each other out. It gets a little tricky later, but you might have to look back about colors and all that business, but have fun with that.